Hey guys, I'm going to be doing something a little different today. I've decided to start a blindfold chess series. So there's a setting on chess.com where you can hide the pieces, which I've enabled here. And I just searched for a 15-minute plus 10-second increment game. I didn't set any rating criteria, and I've got a game. This is going to be experimental because obviously you don't have the side of the board either when you're watching this. Eventually, if I get savvy with my broadcasts, I think I'll probably try to overlay a board after the recording is done, just to have you guys be able to look at something while we play. But for now, you'll just be staring at this blank screen while I play. I would recommend, if you're really interested in following me on this, trying to bring out a board yourself and follow along with the moves. You can see the moves here, because I know staring at a blank screen for the entire recording is a little tedious. But I'm just using this as a method to train. I occasionally play blindfold methods when I'm preparing for a tournament, which I am at the moment. I'm preparing to play the Millionaire Chess Tournament in Las Vegas coming up. And it obviously is very challenging, but if you really want to train your board vision, your calculation, your memory, it's great practice. I highly recommend it no matter what your level is. Even if you can only play 5 or 10 moves blindfolded in your head, you'll benefit from doing this. So I would encourage you to follow along, or if you get bored, you can skip to the end of this recording and I'm going to go over this game. So as I was babbling there, I decided to play the Scandinavian again. If you guys watch my channel, you know I really like this opening. And in Blindfold, it's probably good to play something you're comfortable with. You wouldn't want to play a new opening in a Blindfold game. That would be a little crazy unless you are very confident in your ability to hold the position in your head. So right here, I'm black, if you can notice by the letters and the numbers, the notation. So I have just pinned him with bishop g4. We're only 4 moves into the game, but already there's some pawn tension in the center. There's d and e pawns. He has a pawn on d4, I have a pawn on e5, and there's some tension there. He should probably play bishop e2 in this position, because I am pinning his knight on f3. This knight can't move because the queen behind it would be hanging. Oh, this guy said hi, so I should respond. Okay, so he took my pawn on e5. Now, my queen is hanging because his queen is now opened up here. So I could do one of two things. I could either take on f3, or I could play queen takes queen. I'm going to play queen takes queen. And he'll take me back, and then I'm going to play knight c6. Now, if you've been following this and you haven't moved the pieces, perhaps ask yourself, what is black's threat at the moment? I'll give you guys a couple seconds to answer that. So I was threatening to play knight takes e5. Because again, I have a bishop on g4. His knight is on f3. I have a knight on c6, so I'm threatening to take the pawn there. He pinned me with bishop b5. But because of the way I played this, I can castle here with check, which I will do. And then I've removed the pin. Okay, so he played king e1. Here, good exercise would be ask yourself, how can black regain the pawn? Or can black do something even better that I'm noticing right here? Once again, I'll give you a couple seconds to answer that. I purposely chose an increment time control just to make sure I'm not wildly trying to blitz at the end of a blindfold game. So there's 2 ways to do this. I can play bishop takes knight on f3, after which he'll take back with his pawn, and then I can take on e5. Or I can be craftier and play knight takes e5 immediately, which I'm kind of leaning towards doing because he can't take me then due to rook d1 checkmate. So I think I'll do that. And if he takes my knight, this will all be over rapidly, but I don't think this guy will. He's a little too high rated for that. So as it stands now, I've recouped the material. I would expect him to play either bishop e2 or knight bd2 to protect that knight at f3. Yeah, and when your opponent like hasn't taken the piece by now, you know that they saw your threat, so he's not going to take on e5. Okay, so he did play bishop e2. I will take on f3. I'm just trying to figure out if it's better to take with the knight or the bishop. Either way, he's going to be forced to compromise his pawn structure. I'm going to take with the knight. So knight takes knight trade. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't know this already, he's attacking my bishop here. I'll go bishop f5, hit his pawn on c2. Blindfold games are optional, and you really don't know when your opponent is playing blindfold because there's not like a blindfold feature on chess.com. There's just a feature to hide the pieces. So, it's very possible you've played someone on chess.com before and they've been playing blindfold. Well, that's not too common, but some people like to challenge themselves like that. So 99.9% chance that this guy is playing with the pieces, but you never know, right? So he just moved his pawn to c3. He's covering he's making sure I can't play bishop takes c2. So I'm just going to develop. I'm going to play knight f6. I would expect him to develop either his dark square bishop or bring his knight out. One thing I think would be awesome chess.com could do is to make a blindfold feature, basically. I mean, I think it would be really a pretty interesting thing to see, like who are the best blindfold players and set up blindfold games against people. Okay, so he developed a bishop. He's attacking my pawn on a7. That's a loose pawn right now. But a lot of times I won't take that pawn because if he does, I can trap him with b6. So I have half a mind to play knight d5 and try to encourage him to take it. The only thing I'm hung up on is if I play b6 thereafter, he can play bishop a6 check, because remember my king is on c8. So I'd have to play king d7 then. And his bishops are a little weird, but I don't know if I want to mess around with that. I think I'm just going to play a6. I'm pleased with this position, so I don't think it makes sense to take an undue risk. And I would bet he'll play knight d2, just complete his development. Yeah, and he does. I still have to develop my dark square bishop. But first, I want to see how he'll respond to knight to d5. So I'm hitting his bishop on e3. I'm just really curious how he'll play against that. I don't even necessarily want to take it right away, although I might if given the chance. It's really incredible the capabilities of some players to play blindfold chess. I'm not sure what the blindfold simul record is, but it's a pretty astronomical number of boards. And recently, Timur Gureyev played a simul. He's a grandmaster, lives here in the U.S. He played, I know, a 32 board simul, I believe, at the St. Louis Chess Club not long ago. And I heard that he was planning on playing a 64 board blindfold simul at some point. I don't think that has happened, but he wanted to reach the symbolic 64 board number, which would be, I mean, if he could pull that off, that would be, in my opinion, one of the greatest chess feats ever, because that's a truly insane number of boards. But, I mean, if you're getting into blindfold, just being able to play, a quarter of a game blindfolded is a good place to start. So he played bishop c4, threatening my knight on d5. It is defended by my rook, so it's not that big of a deal. If I take, I straighten out his pawns. But the advantage of taking is I can play bishop c5 after that. So I might do that. So take, bishop c5, he can go pawn e4, bishop g6, which defends the pawn on f7, because if I move my knight from d5, he'll be threatening bishop takes f7. Hmm. No, I'm gonna maintain the tension. I'm gonna play bishop e7. I don't want to give him an easy decision. I've talked about this in other videos, but if I take on e3, he has to take back. He knows he has to take back. I know he has to take back. I don't like giving my opponents easy decisions like that. By playing bishop e7, maybe I can delay that decision for one move. And after he takes back, I can play bishop h4 check, for instance, because his king is on e1. Let's see how he reacts. Maybe he'll take me on d5. Bishop takes d5, and I can take with my rook. Time-wise, we're both doing quite well. Plenty of time here. We're on move 14. I'm going to try not to look at this move list. This is kind of a crutch. Like, I mean, you could go scrolling all the way back, and if you get lost, like, figure out where the pieces are. But the point of playing blindfolded is exactly that, to be truly just aware of the board and being able to create like an imprint of it in your head, basically. So played knight e4. I still want to delay the decision to take on e3 or not. I could play bishop takes e4, but that would straighten out his pawns. I think I'm going to go bishop, or not, sorry, not bishop, rook he8. Double up there. Yeah, let's do that. So I have a centralized position. Both my rooks are on d8, e8. I have a bishop on f5, a bishop on e7, and a knight on d5. His rooks are disconnected because remember his king is on e1. So it would probably behoove him to play something like, king e2 soon. There's a lot of like benefits to putting your rook on the same file as your opponent's king, even if the file is kind of clogged like this one is. So like here, if he plays king e2, he played king f1, interesting. But if he had played king e2, maybe I could move my bishop back to g6 and go for f5. So now, I kind of want to give a check on h3. And then go f5. That looks fun. If I check him here, then he'll have to make an unpleasant decision. Go to g1, where his king is pretty awkwardly placed and his rook is trapped in on h1, or go back to the center, which might line up well with f5. Yeah, let's do that. So to play a move like bishop h3 check, I have to see that there's a pawn on h2 for white. That would be embarrassing if I did not. Okay, so he pretty quickly went back to the center. Now I'm going to play f5, because again, there's all this traffic down the file. So if I play f5, it's going to kick his knight out, then I maybe can continue with f4. Yeah, let's do that. If he plays knight g5, I can chop off that knight, and he's pinned. His bishop is trying to defend the knight. And if he doesn't, well, the only other square he can really bring his knight to that doesn't lose something, I think, is d2. Because if he goes to g3, I have f4. Or do I? He might be able to take on d5 in that case. So he's got to choose between g3 or back to d2. I would expect him to play knight d2. He could play knight c5, but I can play bishop takes c5 then. So remember, I got my bishop on e7 and the rook on e8 behind it. Yeah, I think he'll probably figure out that d2 is the square he has to go to here. I can play f4 in that case, though. Oh, yeah. Okay, I think I still have something even if he does go to d2. So I play f4, let's say. He goes to d4. Oh, he took on d5. Interesting. That one I hadn't considered too closely. Well, if I take him on e4, his knight, then he'll take back with his bishop. So I'm just gonna quickly recapture here. And he's still got this dilemma on the e file, where to put the knight. Yeah, definitely knight d2 is the best square. And then I was looking at f4. Although, now he might be able to play bishop takes f4, because my knight is no longer guarding that square. So if he plays knight d2, I'll have to make a decision how to proceed. He played c4. Attack my rook. Well, that gives him access to c3, so that's not a bad decision. But I can play maybe rook e5. Yeah, rook e5 looks promising. Because then if his knight moves anywhere, I think I can play f4, and he's still pinned. Yeah, let's do that. So I have both my rooks on the e file now, but I have that bishop on e7. This is the problem. But that's actually not a problem, because this rook is pinning. Yeah, so I'm going to be winning material here, unless I've missed something egregious. Oh, and you guys will just have to trust me that I don't have a board open elsewhere, like sitting right in front of me. This is totally honor system, but I can assure you that I'm trying my hardest, and this is truly a blindfold game. I was worried that someone like really high rated was going to match me. Someone who I'd struggle to play even with sight of the board. But, you know, a little bit lower rated of a player. I'm not too concerned. Okay, he resigned. Yeah, he probably saw what was going to happen. Like, if he moves this knight, then I get to play pawn f4. So now, let's go to the big reveal. I'm going to review this game, just so you guys can see what was going on. This is 19 moves. So let's review this. Oh, and it's not going to let me. I have to change my settings. Okay, I'm going to do that off screen. Well, actually, I'll put it on screen. So if you go into online chess settings, or no, sorry, live chess settings, like update your live chess settings, then you'll see under piece styles, you can select blindfold or whatever other style you want. I'm going to go back to the default, which is like the classic, and save this. I may have to go back into live chess for it to take effect. So let me do that right now. And I'm going to start a analysis board just to show you guys. And then grab the game I just played. Here it is. Oh, analyze and live. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this was the game. I'll flip it just to see from my perspective. So I did play that Scandinavian. And he played d4. This move is not too critical. Most people play knight c3, but d4 is pretty well met by e5. This is actually like kind of an equalizing move for black. A more ambitious move is even knight to c6. If black wants to try for more, like more pressure on the pawn. e5 does give him the option of just trading. If he had taken on e5, I would have taken on d1 and then played knight c6. Very similar to the game. So he went knight f3. I pinned him. Now here, I've had a couple games where white plays bishop e2. Relatively speaking, that's probably the best move. Is it bishop e2 or knight c3? One of those two moves. I can't quite recall. But I think bishop e2 is good because, if I take on f3, he'll take back with his bishop. And I can't just flat out win a pawn here with queen takes d4 because queen takes queen, pawn takes queen, bishop takes b7, wins my rook. So can't do that. So he took here, and then I traded and played knight c6. So black's not overly concerned about being down a pawn because I'm rapidly getting mobilized. It's not going to be easy for white to consolidate the pawn. I mean, if white could even hang on to the pawn, that would be an achievement for him. So I think I love to play these types of positions as black. Like whenever I face this line, I feel pretty comfortable. Then he went bishop b5. I castled. Then I took on e5 after he did this. Yeah, so here's where in game I was explaining the two options that I had. One would be to take on f3 right away. He takes back and then play this. That was possible. Oh, and I'm also noticing I could maybe have tried knight d4 here if I had gone this route. That's probably the strongest option of all. Knight d4 is really nice because that's a triple attack. I think I briefly considered this in my head during the game, but I didn't see that it was attacking three things. I think I missed the c2 pawn. I thought he could play bishop e2 here and defend the pawn here, but I think I missed that I could play knight takes c2 then. Aha, so maybe that was better than what I did in the game, which was knight takes e5. Yeah, of course, if he takes here, he just gets mated on d1. So he would have to take me back. And then knight d4, that's a nice move. Yeah, and let's say he moves his bishop to d3 or a4 in order to guard c2. I can then take on f3 and then take on e5. Black will be up a pawn with a great position. Okay, so, even though I won this game in 19 moves, I already see something I could have improved on. So taking on f3 would have been better than taking on e5. Maybe I was playing for a bit of a cheap trick with knight takes knight, rook d1, which, as I said, it was pretty clear after about 5 seconds that he was not going to play that. So he played bishop e2. I took on f3. He took the pawn. So now he's got this structural deficit in the long run here. That makes me happy. Then I played bishop f5, hitting the pawn on c2. Here, knight f6, just getting developed. These moves are all reasonable by him. Yeah, and I mentioned this factor, like the undefended A pawn. So let's say I had played like some generic developing move like bishop d6. A lot of times they won't take that pawn because they're afraid of b6, followed by king b7 and the bishop's trapped. I was just not sure about the ramifications of this, and then maybe a move like, I don't know, bishop b7. Although, looking at it again, that's kind of ridiculous for me to be worried about this. Like, I could even play rook a8 here, give him one of my rooks, but then, I'm picking up this bishop. This would be great for black. Even though material-wise he gets out of this fine, undoubtedly black is doing better here because I've got great piece activity. His rooks are a long way from being relevant. My minor pieces are awesome here, 2 bishops especially. So, okay, again, another thing I could have improved on. a6 was overly cautious. That's not a move I would repeat. So, I played, a6. So I probably should have played bishop d6, just develop. Give him the option of taking. Yeah, it was foolish of me to be concerned about that move. So a6, he went knight d2. Played knight d5. Bishop c4. And here I was saying, like, knight takes e3 seemed okay, but I didn't want to give him an easy decision. And then after this, like, I would have to respond to the threat of bishop takes f7 pretty soon here. So give your opponent chances to go wrong. That's really important. So I played just bishop e7, like not letting him know whether I'm going to take his bishop or not. Giving him the option to take my knight, but that would be fine by me. And he went knight e4. I played rook he8, just developing the final piece. And as I was explaining, even if there's no immediate threats, this is going to be something he's concerned about. I mean, it's not comfortable to have one of your opponent's major pieces lined up with your king or your queen, oftentimes, even if there's a bunch of stuff in the way. because those lines can get cleared and there can be tactical shots based on that. Yeah, if white could castle here, let's say he could castle queenside, he would do that in a heartbeat. But he's already moved his king. He can't. So naturally, he tried to get out of the way. But this seems like a significant mistake, because after check, yeah, his position is not pleasant. I guess he should play king g1 here and try to hide in the corner. That at least avoids tactics down the e-file. But I had some visions of like maybe lifting a rook up here eventually if I'm able to chase away this knight. Like maybe f5 is again a good option for me here. Let's say he goes, knight g3, maybe f4 is the answer. Let's just say here. Well, even that loses a piece, like take and then take on d2. So, yeah, just not a good position for him, even after king g1. So he played king e2, but f5. Only possible. This move is only good because of his king being on this file. I'm trying to open lines and reach this. That's the target. And as I was saying, like if knight d2, that's the move I was expecting out of him here. I can't recall what I would have done. I was looking at f4, but I just wasn't sure like if bishop d4 here, if I had something winning. And I do have this move, followed by taking there. Oh, it was c5. Yeah, that was the move. Okay, c5. So even if he does play bishop d4, c5 is strong. And this bishop is not given any rest. Like if he goes to e5, he's in the danger zone again on the file, so I can just play like, for instance, bishop f6 and win that piece. If he plays bishop takes g7, it's very similar. Just, let's say, check, discover check on the king, take the bishop next move. That's over. Yeah, so c5 was the key. I think I did mention that during the game. That was a possibility for black. So I think he's just losing here. Losing some material. Because, not many options for his knight. Knight g5 runs into bishop takes g5. Knight c5 runs into bishop takes c5. Knight d2 we just refuted because of f4. If knight g3, also f4. Although this one, okay, this one he can take on d5. He can do that. And then there's some stuff that looks really pretty good for me, but I'd have some stuff to think about because I could take like legitimately any one of his three minor pieces. They're all on pre at the moment. I probably would take the bishop on e3 because then this is under attack. I'm threatening like to take on f2. Maybe I can play bishop c5 and uncover this rook on his king. So not to get too long-winded with the analysis here, but it does seem like knight g3 was his only chance. But he took on d5. I took back with a rook. The tactics are all very similar. Again, maybe knight g3 was his only chance. Looks like it. But he played c4 and then rook e5. And here he resigned because he saw he was losing material. If the knight moves anywhere, f4 next move. Let's say knight c3 and just f4 and the pin causes him to lose a piece. Or if he plays bishop d4, we just calmly move the rook back. And again, the pin on the e-file brings him to grief here. So, okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this blindfold video. If you like this format, definitely let me know. Like I said, I might try to add a board on the side in the production. Not too savvy with like Camtasia yet, but I think I can probably manage that. And if you have any comments about this game, feel free to leave them. Thanks, guys. Bye.